Hello there everyone, your fluffy armchair Admiral Latter is back with some more hot ship action. Before we begin today's episode of Lots of Guns, I would like to give a big shout out to, to the artist that created my new uh, channel graphics. It's only a background, which you can see in my YouTube profile when you get there. And it's my new avatar or channel icon, which you will probably see in your bottom right corner. You can also see it or rather at the end of the video when it will be displayed on your screen. So it's been created by amazing furry artists whose contact details are visible on the screen right about now. Hopefully I put them on. Yeah, I definitely will. I'll make sure to put those details on your screens so you can contact and or commission this artist. She definitely deserves some attention. She's amazing artist. She does fantastic job, and work with her is absolutely pleasant and comes without any issues. So I strongly recommend commissioning that artist. She is doing amazing job. Right, let's begin today's video. And in today's episode of Lots of Guns, we are finally, and I repeat that again, finally, going to have a look at Queen Elizabeth class battleship, which you should see on your screens right about now. Yes, I once more pre-built that ship for you. Mostly because it took a lot of time to actually find all materials or all parts that I would need to actually build this ship, and it's not 100% accurate to how those ships looked like and how those ships performed. However, I did my best. I will focus on class in general, not on particular ship in this class, because there were 5 of them and all 5 of them had an amazing history. So if I would focus on each of them, that would make separate episodes for sure. Not to mention that there are such famous names as HMS Warspite, which is definitely a material for a separate episode. Anyway, speaking of the ships and class itself, so ships of this class were designed in 1910, with first ship being laid down in 1912 and commissioned after outbreak of First World War in 1914. I think it was October 1914 to be exact. Initially, there were 4 ships in the class planned: Queen Elizabeth, Warspite, Valiant, and Barnum. However, later on, shortly before outbreak of First World War, Federation of Malay States decided to fund the 5th one, which was named after the state, which is HMS Malaya. And she was laid down in October 1913. She became obviously the last ship of this class that was laid down and built. Last to be laid down because there was a 6th one ordered. but it was cancelled after outbreak of First World War, before it was even laid down. So I'm officially not counting this ship or the sixth ship as actual ship that was built or started, because it never was. So, speaking of the armament of those ships, let's start from this one for change. So, their main armament consisted of 8 15-inch guns mounted in 4 turrets in super firing positions. I can't remember how they were exactly marked. I think it was turret A, B, X, and Y. But don't yell at me if I made a mistake. But that's how Royal Navy is naming their turrets. So it's first 2 letters of alphabet if turrets are at the front of superstructure, and last letters of alphabet if turrets are at the back of the superstructure, if I remember correctly. Right. Initially, after ships were built, at least in 1914, or when they commissioned, not built, because ships were built before they were armed. Anyway, when ships were commissioned, they were also equipped with between 12 and 14 6-inch casemate guns, which you can see on your screen right about now. However, during first battles, during first months or years of service of those ships, those casemate guns were proven to be very ineffective and useless, in fact. They often got flooded, even during relatively calm sea waves, and basically everyone hated them. So during refit between First and Second World War, most of Queen Elizabeth class battleships had those 6-inch guns removed, and casemates were sealed. I think it was only Warspite that retained or that had some of their casemate guns still intact after refit. Right. Ships were also equipped with 4 underwater 21-inch torpedo tubes. Originally 2 per side. Unfortunately, as you can see on my build, I don't know if you noticed that those gray circles, they mark mounting points for torpedo tubes. So I got 1 torpedo tube on each side, 1 at the very bow of the ship and 1 at the stern of the ship. So that makes 4. Unfortunately, they are not placed as they historically were. I'm afraid that this is what the game allows me to do. Right. So, when it comes to propulsion, ships were propelled or powered by oil-fueled boilers. Originally, they were designed to use, I think, coal fuel. However, shortly before ships were ordered, Admiralty decided that they want oil-fueled boilers. That created some issues for constructors. They made it, however, a lot of extra tonnage was wasted. And that brings out another issue of those ships. Even though they had relatively modern engines, which were steam turbines, everything was perfectly fine. The ships ended up being very, very overweight. At least at the time when they were built and equipped with all the goodies they were supposed to have. So instead of having or reaching designed speed of 25 knots, I think the only ship that went through actual sea trials have proven that those ships could in fact barely reach 24 knots. So that's why I set my speed for 24 knots instead of 25, if anyone asks. The type of armor that was used on those ships originally was Krupp cemented armor, and that's the one that I've just selected. I had the ship pre-designed with Krupp 3 armor, which is homogeneous armor. It might have been updated between wars, but I'm trying to stick my project as close to original 1914 build as possible. Obviously, not every part in the game is present at that time, so I had to push my date up to 1922 or 24, I think, to get that hull. However, I will try to stick with what this ship had when it was built as best to my abilities as possible. Barbettes were having like a mediocre armor, so that's what I tried to stick with. Barbette 3 should be sufficient to survive some shots without blowing the ship up. When it comes to torpedo protection, we can go either for anti-torpedo 1 or anti-torpedo 2 for early builds. I'm not sure exactly which one was fitted to Queen Elizabeth originally. I know that during refit between wars, those ships received some torpedo bulges, but they were still insufficient to protect the ship from sinking, which was proven in 1941 by HMS Barham, who sank after being hit by 3 torpedoes. Right, I've put a single hull bottom. I'm not sure if it was constructed with multiple hull bottoms or if it's only a single hull. Reinforced bulkheads, anti-float 2 to be able to actually pump out the water, because obviously the game thinks that if you don't have that, then you can't pump out the waters, and I can guarantee you that pumps were present on pretty much every British ship. Starting from older ships, which were equipped with sails. Even back then, ships had pumps, so it's not a new technology. In fact, when it comes to Citadel, I just equipped this ship with armored Citadel, nothing else. So it's not top notch like all or nothing turtleback. It's just armored Citadel. I gave it a standard ammunition, standard torpedo rounds. In fact, I'm not sure if I can check how many torpedoes I got on board. I got ammo 4 per launcher, 4 times 4, it's 16. So I'm having 4 torpedoes less than originally those ships had. Actually, if I will go for increased ammo torps, I will get 5 per launcher, which is exactly the same amount of torpedoes as Queen Elizabeth's carried, which is 21-inch torpedoes for their tubes. So I will go for increased ammo torps to actually carry enough torpedoes for our needs. Obviously, as we are talking about British Navy, they used cordite as propellant, and I am going to use cordite 2 because it was upgraded before 1900s, if I remember correctly. So for any pre-Dreadnought battleship, using cordite 1 is appropriate. For every like World War I and World War II battleship, in terms of British, cordite 2 is appropriate propellant to use. Right, when it comes to rangefinder, I know that Queen Elizabeth had some sort of more or less modern rangefinders equipped. I'm not sure how that relates to the game, because it obviously doesn't show me at which date those different rangefinders become available, and I can't decide if I should go for the top ones or for the bottom ones, so I will just use the top ones in order to not extend this battle too long. Obviously some radio equipment, radio direction finder, it makes no difference whatsoever if I get it or not. The biggest difference it makes is that increased communications range, which I know that ships already had a radio at that time. World War One was pretty much when radio already was a thing, and army was extensively using radio communication, more or less obviously, because those technologies weren't just developed, they were not exactly compact, but I can guarantee you that equipment as big as a warship definitely had some sort of a communication, which is either telegraph or a radio. So I can eventually go for improved radio telegraph if that makes people more happy. Right, when it comes to armor values, that is going to relate to general parameters of Queen Elizabeth class battleship. So I'm not trying to reconstruct any of 5 of those ships. I will just equip them with values that are like general for the generalized, or like averages for the class, because every single of 5 ships had slightly different armor values. So I won't be claiming that this is a HMS Warspite, or this is HMS Queen Elizabeth, or HMS Barnham, or any other. It's just ship of the class in general. Right, so the main belt was designed to be around 13-inch, with belt extended going down to like 4-5 inch. Deck initially had just 3 inch of thickness in the thickest part, and about 1 inch in the thinnest part. Conning tower and turret faces, in fact, were protected by another 13-inch armor plates, which are equipped in my build. I have no information about turret tops, but from what I remember as summary of Jutland battle, which most of those ships took part in, one of the big problems with Royal Navy was weak turret tops, which was quite unexpected armor to be needed. So I put turret tops of 3-inch on top of those towers, which I believe might be a little bit overkill, but well, if I will find out what were exact armor values for turrets at that time, I will definitely fix it when we will come back to one of those ships. As for secondaries, I have again no data about what kind of armor there were present on those casemate guns. So I put just 2-inch of armor to have anything. And that basically concludes our build of Queen Elizabeth battleship. Right, so I believe we might be ready to go to the battle. What we are going to be facing today is 2 Italian battleships and 3 Italian heavy cruisers. and that's gonna be our enemy. Obviously, we are not going to put up only one Queen Elizabeth battleship, but we will build 3 of them. So hopefully I will be able to win this battle. So before we begin, I would like to remind you that if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps my channel to grow. Also, when you subscribe, hit that bell button to get notifications every time I upload a new video. Also, don't forget to share your comments down below. Right, so let's get started. Alright, so that's our battleships. Okay, let me just quickly set up my course and formation. Oh, I just realized that I forgot to change the name of those battleships to actually represent well the class properly. Anyway, I should be alright regardless. Right, so I will slow my ships down to 20 knots to bring out that proper accuracy. I will turn towards enemy, who happens to be north of my position, and I will put some time compression. Let's stick camera to King Edward VII, and now we can have a short chat, or I can tell you a little bit more about history of those ships, because that's interesting. We won't be covering like a full history, fully detailed history. I will just briefly go through a few facts or few interesting things about those ships. So I might mention names of actual ships that achieved some special things, that had special achievements, but I won't be focusing on this too much. So, all 5 ships were laid down between October 1912 and October 1913. Queen Elizabeth, which was the first ship of the class, entered active service on 22nd of December 1914. Last out of 5 ships entered service on 1st February 1960. Apart from Queen Elizabeth, that took part in Dardanelles campaign, after which she was sent to port for maintenance, which caused her to miss Battle of Jutland. Remaining 4 ships of the class took part in that battle. So, HMS Warspite suffered heavy damage at that battle after taking at least 15 hits. She fired a total of 259 shells, with 14 crew members being killed and 32 wounded. She managed to come back to port for repairs. HMS Barnham, during Jutland battle, got hit 5 times, fired a grand total of 337 shells, and lost a total of 72 crew members, out of which 26 were killed. HMS Malaya took 8 hits, fired 215 shells and lost 131 crew members, out of which 63 were killed. And finally, HMS Valiant, who was the last ship of this class that took part in Jutland battle, was the only one out of 4 of those ships that didn't took any damage. However, she still suffered 1 casualty. In fact, that was 1 wounded sailor, and managed to fire 288 shells. That's quite an impressive amount, I have to say. So later on, obviously, after end of First World War, ships were sent for maintenance and upgrades to ports, and that was, well, most of the time where they spent. Obviously they had some patrol duties. I think most of those ships were reassigned to Mediterranean Sea. That's why I'm right now fighting with Italian Navy. And that's basically where those ships served throughout Second World War. It's not all the time at the Mediterranean, but they didn't took a lot or huge part in defending British Channel or English Channel, and so on and so on. They had slightly different duties. So by the time of the outbreak of a Second World War, those ships were definitely showing their age. Despite some modernizations, their torpedo protection was insufficient, which resulted in loss of HMS Barnham in 1941, which I mentioned before. She sank within 5 minutes after being hit by just 3 German torpedoes. So that's how much outdated their armor and other elements of that ships were. When it comes to remaining 4 battleships, surprisingly, even though they were being outdated, they survived until the end of the war, with various achievements on their side. In fact, speaking of achievements, HMS Warspite became the most honored individual ship in the Royal Navy's history, with 14 honors, and scored one of the longest range naval artillery hits in history at the range of 26,000 yards, or nearly 23.8 kilometers. She also happened, by accident obviously, to be the last ship of this class to actually be scrapped. But that eventually happened by an accident, mostly because the ship got stuck in shallow waters, and before it was lifted and eventually transported to appropriate ports to be scrapped, other ships of the class were assigned to that fate. So obviously they took that space in a queue. But we will be talking about that in video about HMS Warspite, if such video will be released, and when such video will be released. Right, that's it when it comes to a brief history of Queen Elizabeth class. Let's now focus on this battle. I'll try to win this one as quick as possible and as smooth as possible, obviously. For now the situation is pretty good for us. we managed to fire a torpedo in direction of enemy cruisers. We are actively engaging those cruisers with all 3 of our battleships. I will in fact reassign one of my battleships to fire at enemy battleship, while remaining 2 will still carry on fighting with cruisers. I also need to be on the lookout for enemy torpedoes, which might eventually appear somewhere soon, because we are dangerously close from such. Right, King Edward VII is about to reload her guns. Okay, 3 salvos fired. One of them looks, it fell short. I'm being hit by small arms fire, which is causing actual fires on deck of King Edward VII. Hopefully I will soon start scoring some nice hits. From what I can see, King Edward VII have switched its target. I now reassigned all 3 battleships to shoot their own separate target. Hopefully this will speed up the whole process. Let's see how my torpedo is doing. One of my torpedoes is in fact very close to enemy heavy cruiser. It doesn't look like it's going to hit. It's very easy to dodge. So I don't think enemy cruiser will eventually get hit. Yeah, there's absolutely no chance that this is going to happen. So far I haven't seen any torpedoes from enemy cruisers, and that is because they are not equipped with such, which is quite lucky for me. Speaking of enemy, enemy battleships also doesn't have any torpedoes on board. Right, I scored a massive hit on enemy cruiser Generoso. So far I am doing really good. Enemy cruiser should soon go down below. She is sinking, is she? No, she's no longer sinking. She's in fact pumping out water. No? Oh, she is still sinking. But very slowly, and most likely she is going to survive that. Meanwhile, enemy heavy cruiser Maria Teresa took a massive blow, which basically took out half of her health. King Edward VII missed its shot. Too bad, that's really unfortunate. However, Maria Teresa is sinking. She has her engine damaged. She's on fire. In fact, nearly half of the ship is on fire. She really sustained very heavy damage from that hit. Right, Generoso is trying to run away. Let's have a look at her. Yeah, she doesn't look really good. In fact, a large part of the deck is now below water. Hopefully we will soon get rid of her and remove her from this battle. Let's have a look at Maria Teresa. She seems to be quite stable, however her HP is really low. She's down to 20%. Floatability seems to be looking good. However, it won't last long. Generoso managed to bounce another shot from King Edward VII. She is being hit by some secondary fire. King Edward is also under fire from Palestro. Hopefully it won't end up in any hits. In fact, some hits were scored below waterline, which caused some minor leaks. I will just change my course to turn towards enemy to shorten the distance. My battleships are keeping a nice formation. It's not too tight, it's not too wide, so I should be able to finish off the enemy. For some reason King Edward, as always, switched her target, so I need to adjust that. I don't want King Edward to fire at enemy battleships, at least not yet. I really wish to finish off cruisers first, because they are most annoying. We still got a lot of torpedoes left. Unfortunately, hitting anything with those is very, very questionable task, especially that they are not too accurate. Hopefully soon we will score that one missing hit at Generoso. We are scoring some secondary and casemate guns hits, but I really wish that we could just end this. Oh, Maria Teresa just took 2 massive blows. Her structure points are down to 9%. Hopefully it won't end up in typical bug for this game, where enemy ships stay afloat regardless of being hit really, really bad. We just scored another massive hit on Generoso, causing another flood. Hopefully she will go down thanks to that. However, I don't see her floatability to really go down. Her structure points, however, are down to 42, and hopefully the next salvo or two will end her misery. Palestro dangerously close. She is firing, and her fire becomes a little bit more accurate. However, I believe it's mostly cruisers that are causing damage to my battleships at this moment. Maria Teresa managed to avoid another massive hit from Monarch, is it? Yeah, from Monarch. Let's see. Irresistible missed another shot at Palestro, which is not exactly what I would like to see, but well, there's nothing I can do with it. For now, what I can do is to get closer. Right, Generoso finally got overwhelmed by my fire. I will switch King Edward's attention towards Aquila. Oh no, it was Irresistible that I switched towards Aquila. Fair enough, it will work as well. King Edward will fire at Palestro then, which she selected on her own. I will turn in even more to reduce the distance from the enemy, and hopefully that will result in sinking of another enemy cruiser or battleship. Right, so by accident I switched fire of 2 ships. We need to regain that accuracy. There are 2 sets of secondary guns that are shooting at Maria Teresa. They seem to be quite accurate, which I'm very, very grateful for. Another torpedo is in the water, and hopefully this battle is going to end soon. Right, full salvo is going at Palestro. One hit scored, didn't do too much damage. Let's see how those ships look like, in fact. So they are using similar, well, not exactly the same, but they are using very, very similar hull to mine. Gun caliber, well, traditionally for Italian Navy is smaller than the British one, so I am definitely having some advantage. Aquila just took a massive blow from Irresistible. King Edward VII took several massive blows from the enemy. Her structure points are now down to 63%, which is not exactly the best, but it's still not the worst. Oh, two massive hits with flooding scored on King Edward VII from Palestro. Did I just score a torpedo hit? I don't think it was torpedo hit. I think it was like a bounce or non-typical hit. Nah, it wasn't a torpedo hit. It was still a massive blow. Aquila is slowly sinking. Her engine has flooded. Oh, we scored another massive hit on Aquila, causing another flooding. I don't think she is going to survive another hit. Monarch is trying to hit Maria Teresa, however it's unsuccessful for now. Hopefully this will quickly change. Right. I will change Irresistible's attention towards Palestro, because shooting across the battlefield is very ineffective. Okay, first shot, and we managed to score a massive hit on Aquila. I think we just sank her. Yes, she sank. Maria Teresa is also down under, so I will switch King Edward's attention towards Carlo Alberto. I will send Monarch after her, while Irresistible will split from the formation and attack Palestro. We need to split our attention between those two ships. Okay, it looks really good. King Edward VII fired a torpedo in direction of Carlo Alberto, while at the same time Irresistible, with her damaged engine right now, is engaging Palestro in a firefight, with some torpedoes being involved in the process. We just scored a hit. I wouldn't say a massive hit. We scored another 2 hits, in fact. So Palestro is now down to 82%. However, in exchange, she also scored some hits on us. Hopefully though, this torpedo is going to hit and cause some flooding. As Palestro has minimum bulkheads, it will be definitely very, very damaging. We might eventually see her going down from just one torpedo. She is turning away, which is a bit worrisome, but it might be her standard maneuver. She might not carry on with this, or she might still not see the torpedo incoming. And that torpedo is looking even better thanks to that. So hopefully we are going to see some hits. Okay, we destroyed casemate and we caused fire. However, Palestro seems to be turning away. Yeah, if she won't turn into that torpedo, and I don't think she will, we will miss that shot, unfortunately. Unfortunately, because, well, I really wished to actually score a hit. Right. When it comes to this side of the battle, Carlo Alberto is engaging King Edward VII and Monarch. Both of those ships are doing great in taking her out. Right, I might have I accidentally changed the course of Irresistible. Hopefully Palestro won't keep running away. I wouldn't like to see any more of that. I really need her to actually chase the enemy. Some massive hits were scored. I think, yes, Carlo Alberto got what we see, yes. We scored 2 hits on Carlo Alberto. We caused some floodings and we fired a torpedo, which is looking really, really good. Oh, please tell me it's going to hit. Look at this. It is getting there. I think she might avoid that though. She is a bit too fast for that torpedo. Yeah, she is a bit faster than I would expect. So unless that torpedo is... Oh, we scored that hit. And we... Oh, that was a massive hit. I don't see Carlo Alberto surviving another few minutes. This is the end. Yes, that looks like the end. Yeah, she is sinking. She went down under. Alright, so that leaves us with just one enemy. And that one enemy, Palestro, is being chased by Irresistible. Attention of all my battleships has now been turned towards that remaining battleship. It shouldn't take that long. And I have to admit that... Oh, that was a massive hit. We just scored a torpedo hit on her. She is flooding. She is on fire. And her situation is getting worse and worse with every single second. So we are definitely having an upper hand in this encounter, which I'm very grateful for. However, she is still running away, which is not exactly what I enjoy. But, well, we need to live with that. Let's put some time compression on. We don't need to watch that very, very slow battle. She is definitely going down, and there's no chance that that she's gonna win. We scored another hit, causing another flooding, and situation of Palestro is getting worse and worse. Her rudder is damaged, so she is going to struggle to turn her ship. Hopefully this will result in more and more of hits. Yes, we are scoring more and more hits on her. Most likely we will succeed in sinking her. Let's just wait until this battle ends. Yeah, Palestro is still flooding. I don't see any chance that she will survive. She is on fire, she is flooding. Floatability is down to 4%, 5%. So she is trying to pump out the water, 2%, and she is going down. She managed to sink, and British Navy is successful again. She is victorious again. Yes, so that's how the battle on our Queen Elizabeth looked like. We managed to massively succeed in this, and I'm very happy that it turned out to be such a big success. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. If you want to get informed about my new uploads, hit that notification bell button and don't forget to share your comments down below. Have a great day and see you all later. Latur. Out.